Hi guys, today we're going to talk about encaustics, and I'm going to talk about some things that I know about it. I haven't been doing it for a very long time, but I think I can at least get you guys started if you're interested in it. So I had some clips of me making my encaustic medium, and I'll show you what I use for that in just a minute. But first things first, if you're worried about toxic fumes or anything like that, wear a respirator during this. You will be working with heat, a lot of heat, possibly fire, purposeful, and hopefully not accidentally, but have safety measures in place for all of that. Don't wear anything you light because you could get wax embedded in it. Put your hair up like so. And anyway, if you have long hair, you're gonna want to not get wax in it. Thinking. Be extra careful because it is a lot of heat. Look, I'm gonna set you down. If you do want to protect your clothing, you can put on a smock, or apron, or whatever you want to call it. And what I'll say is that my apron confuses me. Okay, here we go. Encaustic is not a cheap medium. I'll say that right off the tip. It's an expensive medium because you're investing a lot at the outset, but then to keep going, you also have a bit of investment. It's not as expensive as the original outset, of course, but you just keep, you do have to spend a bit, especially if you want to use really good products. There are a lot of hacks online that you can find to sort of bypass a lot of like really expensive stuff, which is really cool. I think the first thing I'll probably do is show you how I make my medium, and then we'll move on to tools. Okay, so this right here is my wax medium that I just made. It's very hot right now. I'm going to pour some into this smaller metal container. It's just a little aluminum container that I got like at Walmart. They just look like this, like little baking containers. I have ones like that. When it's done, it's going to look like this. When it's cooled, that's what it looks like. I also have some little like containers like this that are also aluminum. I'm gonna move this. Be careful touching things over here. They are hot, very hot. And we'll go over the setup here in a few minutes. I'm just decanting my medium. Okay, that'll do. I'm gonna set this aside. I have my setup on a metal cart, like like one of the IKEA Michaels kind of things. To move these around, the best thing you can do is get wooden clothespins, like these, because they don't get hot, and then you can move them around without burning yourself. I don't need that much medium on my skillet at the moment, but it's there for now. Just pick this up. Okay, so I'm going to let that cool. While that's happening, I'm going to get my other cups on my skillet. So what I have is like a long pancake skillet, an electric skillet that I can control the temperature on. I'll bring you over to see it. Okay, So this is my electric skillet. It is from Walmart. It is the Beautiful by Drew Barrymore brand. Yours does not have to be this. It can be, there's a million electric skillets out there. You can use a crock pot. You can use all kinds of things as long as it gets warm, at least up to 180 degrees. I have a little thermometer here to keep an eye on my temperature. You do not want to overheat anything that you're putting on here because it will release toxic fumes. You have to keep an eye on your temperature at all times. Okay, so I've got that. I've got it turned on. And then I've got that on this metal cart that also has like a wood top. So this is like kind of I can push it away out of sight, out of mind when I need to, but it works great for this. Okay, and then this is my medium I just made, and I'll let you know how we do that. All right, I'm back here. So I'm putting these little cups of wax on my hot plate. One is a glitter one. This is just one that I made with medium and glitter. And this is my slush, my slush cup. So any extra wax that I get scraped up or I don't use gets put into here and melted. So if you're going to make like a very dark color, you can use this. So this is really a bunch of different colors. It's just the predominant one was blue at the last time I used it. But it's just any color, anything, any slush goes into this pot. So, except for the glitter. The glitter goes into the glitter pot. Okay? So what we've got is medium, the glitter pot, the slush pot. Okay? So far. When the medium is cooled, it looks like this. And how we make the medium. Okay, what I have is a scale, a standard kitchen scale, so that I can do my recipe. So the recipe I've done, you can buy pre-made medium. I have some in this like plain paper bag, but this is just R&F, this brand right here, R&F. They make medium, and that's what I have left of their medium. I'm just really precious with it, so I'm not using it today. To make your own, you can use beeswax. This company is called Encausticos, and you can find it online, and R&F you can also find online. I can't find any encaustic materials locally. Our local art supply and stores are like Michael's and Hobby Lobby. So the closest I can get is like Santa Fe. But I'm in New Mexico. But this came from Santa Fe, actually. The R&F came from Dallas, Texas, when I visited there. So I have been planning on doing encaustic work for years, at least 4 years. And I only actually started about 6 months ago. I knew that I needed to study a lot and research a lot before I just dived in, which is not usually like me. Usually I dive in and then figure out my mistakes later, but I did a lot of research for encaustic. Now, you can find lessons online, you can find all kinds of, resources online. But anyway, back to what I was talking about. This is bleached beeswax. And that gets mixed with this, which is Damar resin. Both brands, R&F and Encausticos, carry Damar resin. Damar resin is a tree resin. So as it's oozing out of the tree bark, it's scraped up and it hardens. And it looks like this, like little rocks, little crystals. And what we do is we melt that with the beeswax, and that creates your encaustic medium. The recipe I use is 4.5 of the beeswax to 1 of the Damar resin. So I weigh out my Damar resin and I do 4.5 times as much beeswax. Some people melt them together at the same time. Some people melt the beeswax first. Some people melt the resin first. I melt the resin first, but I'm thinking about doing about half and half. But what I made today, I melted the resin first, and it takes a long time because you want to do low and slow. So the slower you can handle doing it, the better. So you're not releasing any toxins, you're not burning it. Nothing over 180. That's just my rule with my hot plate, you know what I mean? But generally speaking, you want to keep it 150, 180, I think. So yeah, it can take up to an hour just for the Damar resin to get melted enough to add your beeswax. And then you add your beeswax, you mix them both together, and this is what you end up with. Okay, you can do that on your hot plate, you can do that in a crock pot, you can do that in a fondue pot, you can do that however you like, but never use that container for food or anything else ever again. You dedicate it to your encaustic. You don't want to have chemicals leaching from your pot into your food or anything like that. So that's true for all art. So there's that. So you can get it pre-made. You can make it yourself. There's a million recipes online for whatever you like, however you like to do it. The recipe I made today will come out with a fairly clear a medium. I made a recipe with beeswax that I found at the craft store. Now this was all natural beeswax, okay, like mostly for making candles and stuff, but you don't want it to have any scents in there, you don't want it to have any additives whatsoever, just natural beeswax. And I made that, and it will have more of what do I want to say, like a creamier color to it, okay? Now when this that I made dries, it'll still look like this color, but when it is applied, it'll be more clear. And both of them have their advantages. So there's that. Okay, next, this is soy wax. Soy wax is to clean your brushes, okay, in between use. And that's what I have this little tin here for. So you get that on your palette. We're calling the skillet our palette. We get that on our palette and melted and ready to go. So if you want to change colors in between and use the same brush for your colors, you're going to want to rinse it out in this soy wax beforehand. So that's what that is for, and it works really, really well. Okay, so that's all of those things on our skillet. I need to wipe it down. Okay. I have very old t-shirt rags to use with this kind of thing. Okay. Now, next, we have, RNF has an encaustic gesso so that you can put down basically like any other gesso, you know, have a place for things to stick really well, and if you want a lighter background, that sort of thing. That's the gesso, and this container, 4 ounces, was $10. So I mean, it's not horrible, but you can also use chalk paint for this and get it, you know, in any color, and use that as a background as well, as if you like, you know, it's really up to you. So I've used that before. So this cradle board here was done with the RNF encaustic gesso, okay? And then I have one here that is just straight up natural wood board, which will also work just fine. You can use backgrounds that are like paper, like you painted a watercolor and you want to make that the background for your encaustic, you can absolutely do that. And you can attach it to your board using Mod Podge. You could use matte medium, you know, all of the PVA, all those things that you would use to attach to a board to mount a watercolor piece otherwise, and then begin from there. You also want to be careful when you're torching, though. If you have paper on here, you don't get it so hot that you set your paper on fire. That is, you have to, this whole art form is being very careful. Okay, so that's 2 substrates for me here that we will be working on in a few minutes. Okay, let's do the fun thing, the color. So, R&F and Encausticos, and I'm sure there's other brands of encaustics, just so you know. This is just what I have found that I can get when I can get anything. So, those little tin things that I have, they've been really good for holding my paint blocks, but even better, I like the, these are ball jars, like jam jelly jars. I keep them in these. So this is what an R&F pigment stick would look like. In there. These are not cheap, but they do go a long way. So this is the pigment already mixed with wax, but you can, but it's very, very pigmented. So you can mix it with your medium and it comes out very, very nice. And then I can put the brand and the color name on top, any information that I need. And so these are the colors I have. My favorite color probably is the chromium oxide green. Love that one. And also the green gold pale. This one is so beautiful. Okay, now I have to go into all of the colors, but so that's what I have for colors. Now, you can mix these in with your medium, and you can also use them alone, okay? This is the color chart from R&F. I don't have one from Encausticos, but you are gonna get the idea here. A color chart, just like with pretty much any other paint, you're gonna see it's super nice. And then they have all of the information for those paints here. Okay. And I'm sure if you go to like Blick or Jackson's or something like that, you can probably find a color chart you can get from R&F. I don't know if Encausticos is in Europe or not, but you might want to check. Okay, sorry if I'm bumping you around too much. As far as color goes, I want to show you one more thing. One moment. Okay. This is where I keep my oil paint, in this organizer. You can use oil paint in your encaustic work, which is fantastic and a lot of fun. And then you can also get pigment sticks, which you may have used for other things, other artwork. But R&F makes a pigment stick. You can see this gold has gotten a lot of use. And then there's more. Where's my other pigment stick? Here's another. I have several pigment sticks, but they are also not cheap. So this beautiful cadmium green pale. I have had this pigment stick since way before I started encaustic work. I've probably had this 6 years, I bet, and that's all I've used of it. Like, they are just straight up pigment. But you can use your regular, sorry, I'm out of breath. You can use your regular oil paints as well in there. And if you guys want to see how I do that, let me know and I can certainly do that. Okay, so that's just, that widens your color variation options. Okay. All right, maybe we'll do a little bit of the oil paint with it today. Okay, next we're going to go on to tools. Okay, here we go with tools. Okay, I use these big wooden sticks, like these tongue depressor sticks, to stir up my wax. Like when I was making my medium, this is the stick I used, because they're not going to be hot to hold. Wood is great for this. But I also have a bunch of old trash brushes that I won't use in anything else that I keep with my encaustic stuff. So, old cheap trash brushes. That's what these guys are for, like detail work and stuff. And then these brushes are super duper cheap as well at your craft store, even at your hardware store. They're just chip brushes. Okay, so just wood chip brushes in all kinds of sizes. You get a bunch of them for cheap, okay? Those work great because, again, while the ferrule will get hot, the handle doesn't, okay? And this, like, funky natural hair isn't gonna melt. You don't want to use a nylon brush for this because it will melt your bristles. So be very careful about that. As synthetic bristles as well. And then these brushes are called hake brushes, and they're like traditional Asian kind of brushes. So I've got several sizes of these. You can see the ones I haven't even used yet. But I love this really big one. But that's the brand I got, Mandalay. And some of them I think are not that brand, but yeah, they all are Mandalay. And then more of these chip brushes. Okay, so if you're lucky, you can get enough brushes that you can use a brush for each color. So you're not having to clean all of the color out of every single one of them every single time. But it's possible. It's not that hard. So if you're trying to be economical, you know, get 1 or 2 brushes and just clean them out in your soy wax, and it's good to go. The next tools are like some flat tools. You guys might recognize some tools like this. You can get like a carving kit, and it will come with one of these. This is, I think, for screen printing or something, but I like the edge of it. There's, you know, one of these catalyst wedges, anything like, you know, fun flat edges. This came from like Home Depot. I think this one may have too. This is a Cricut little smusher, whatever you call it. There's another catalyst in here. So those all work great to be scraping away at your wax and making, you know, indents and doing really cool sculptural elements. Then also this kind of lino cutter has several different tips that you can use. That works really, really great with encaustic wax. All of these are like carving tools that came in, you know, one set. These guys are like really good at pulling away wax and flattening it out and doing stuff like that. Then I've got some pokey tools. You can, you know, pull thin lines, or you can make holes and all kinds of things with those. I have another thermometer that is, you know, good for keeping track of the heat on your in your wax. And then I've got my little paper clothes clips so that I can move my tins around and not burn myself. So let's put all this stuff back in my ugly baskets here. I really did get a good deal on these like chip brushes. I really wouldn't have this many, but I'm happy that I do. Oh, this is just like a chamois cloth that I can use to like get some of the wax off of my skillet if I want to. Okay, so there's that. So we've got our tools, got our color here, we've got our substrates, And we're missing one thing, and that is a torch. We need heat to seal in our work. So I will get to that in just a minute. Okay, so this part is the coolest part, the most fun part, yet the most dangerous part. But, you know, if you do it properly, you don't have to be afraid of anything. If you are afraid of fire, this is not the art form for you. You don't want to be having, you know, stressed out, because it's not going to be good for you. But that's neither here nor there. That's up to you, what you want to do. So there are several ways that you can heat your wax, and you'll see what I mean by that, by heating our wax in just a few minutes. Not the same as what we're doing on our skillet over here. So I have gone from using a craft heat tool like this, which you absolutely can do. It takes a little longer. You know, you can only cover a small amount of space, but it is probably the safest one you can use, I'm guessing. But you can't get too close to it, so it takes a little bit of time. But it is possible, if you have one of these, to get started in encaustic, because that's what I did. The second thing I did was this Mambo heat gun here. Hopefully you can see. This bad boy from Wagner, the Furno 3000 or something. I think it is called, like the Furno 2000 something. It is like a hardcore heat gun, you know, construction wise. And you can turn on the heat and the air for this. And it works really well, actually. This one works really, really well if you want a plug-in system. The sort of construction grade heat guns work really, really well. And then I upgraded to a torch. And a torch is essentially a can. I can't get it out of the stand, but a can of butane like this. Okay, and a standalone one would have a tip on it like this, where you would regulate the flow of the butane from the can itself, and it wouldn't have this big long hose and everything attached to it. The can that I had this one attached to, it wouldn't work for that. I have not tried it on this can, but I'm not going to. I like the system I have. The system I'm working with now came from this kit right here that I got at a hardware store that we have here called Harbor Freight. In the States, we have a lot of Harbor Freights. It's kind of like a discount hardware store, I would say. But this is a welding propane torch kit, and it comes with 3 burners. The burner is the tip right here. Okay, so the other 2, this is the one I use, but there are 2 other ones. One is like more like a welding tip. It just gets hot. And what are you? Oh, this is like to hold. And then there's this flat one, kind of like when you use your hair dryer, like one of those diffuser kind of ones. So it blows flat, which could be very helpful with this too, I'm guessing, but I don't really use it. So I don't use anything else from this kit. And I set it aside. And look how dirty it came from my garage. I'm in New Mexico. I live in the desert. Everything has a layer of dust all the time. So this is the benzomatic propane tank right here. This is a 16-ounce one. I got at like the local like feed and seed store. And then the kit comes with this hose that you attach to the propane tank. And then it has a regulator here. You can see, I'm going to put you back a little bit so you can see a little better. Okay, it has a regulator here and here. Okay, the tip is a screws on here, and then what you want to have is a lighter that, first of all, is not too close to your fingers. The flame is not too close to your fingers, but also, you know, these kind of candle lighters, it doesn't work for me because I have weak hands. So I can't hold that button in that one very well, not quickly, and you know, it's hard for me to use. I found this kind right here, and it works great. So it's not too close to my fingers and I'm gonna burn myself, but also I can do it with one hand. That is important for me. And the way you start this up, maybe everybody knows this. I did not. I had to actually look up how to do this. So that's why I'm telling you guys. Because it's intimidating at first if you've never used a torch like this. So what I do is I turn. Do you hear? You turn it on lightly here. Lightly there. And if it won't light, you turn it up. Come on. There it goes. See? And then you can turn it off by turning both valves off. Okay? And that's what I do to seal in my wax when I'm working. And I keep this off to the side, light it up, do my work, turn it off, set it down, and move on. Okay, I'm going to set this aside for a moment. Be careful where you put things that are that hot. You don't want to burn anything you love or set anything on fire. That tip doesn't stay super hot for long, but it's something you need to pay attention to. This is an art form that you have to pay attention to everything all the time. Okay, I'm gonna do work on this substrate right here because it's white and it might be easy to see. I'm gonna move you down a little bit here. I'm gonna pick the colors and stuff that I'm gonna work with, and I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. I hope very much you can see the substrate and the palette over here. I'm doing my best to get everything in a good view. Okay, so what I've got is I've got medium, slush buckets, and brush cleaner here. You want to have something under your substrate that can handle, first of all, the wax, and second, the fire, the heat. I have a glass cutting board, like a craft board, like, you know what I'm talking about, like a self-healing mat, but it's glass. Okay, I am using that because it's easy to scrape everything off of it and put it in my little slush bucket. So that's that. I've got a hockey brush. Do I know what size it is? Yes, I do. 2.5 inch. Okay. The colors I've chosen are the ones I was speaking about earlier. So chromium oxide green. I've got, these are all by R&F. The next one is the green gold pale. Then I'll be using, this one is olive yellow, also beautiful. And I thought I would throw in a nice dark, which is R&F indigo. It's that one right there. So I'm gonna have all of these open and ready to go. The first thing you're going to want to do is have a layer, like a smooth layer of just plain medium, your wax we made earlier, okay? So you're going to have that here on your palette. You're going to dip your brush. You don't want to let it solidify too quickly. You want to get it down on your board, and you don't want to go back and forth too much either, because the wax will build up. You're trying to make a pretty even coat of that wax. So I go back and forth, up and down, but not over the same brush stroke if possible. And then what I do is I turn it sideways, so we do it the opposite direction. And you'll be able to see where you might need a little bit. Don't worry about too many peaks and valleys unless it's going all the way down to your substrate. Then you can add a little bit like I am right now. Touch more right in this area. So you want it to be fairly even. You can set your brush, as long as it's wood, you can set it right on your palette there to keep it soft. And then we're going to seal in this layer. Okay. I'm in close proximity right here. I would normally have things spread out a little bit more, so I melted my little plastic over here. But I think I'm going to use my heat gun for the rest of this. This is so loud, but as you can see, all of that layer has melted, and now it is cooling off, and it's going to be very smooth. And that's what you're looking for your base layer. I'm going to move this. I'm going to plug in my big heat gun, and I'll be right back. It's noisy too, but also it's better in close proximity like this. And I'll be right back. Okay, so I'm just going to use my heat gun from here, and I will try to just fast forward through the parts where I use it. But you get the idea. You want to melt that layer down so that it's smooth. Okay, that's your first layer. Almost any project you do, okay? Now, the next thing I want to do is get some of this olive, like sort of a mid-tone going. And this is going to be very abstract just because I'm showing you guys. But you're going to put that color down on your palette, melt it down just as much as you need. And then get a brush. So I'll use this one. And if you want to mix in some medium with it, you can. That's going to give it a little more transparency. They're very pigmented, so be sure to work quickly so it is not drying on your brush before you can get it onto your board. This is a very pretty color. And this is just however you want to do it. This is your imagination, however you want to work with it. The one thing about encaustic is it is forgiving. You can melt it and start again if you like. Now, another cool thing about encaustic is you can build up texture by just applying it while it's cooling. I will show you that. So you can grab some of your pigment into your brush. You can let it cool just a minute. This has started to cool, and any texture that you've already created is going to grab onto that cooling wax and start to build up, and you can build it up like crazy. And if you go against the grain, it's going to pick up even more. You see, let it cool a little bit. Hopefully you can see what I'm doing here. I'm going to build up a little, and then I'll show you up close so you can see what I'm talking about. So as of right now, that is the texture that it looks like. I'm going to keep grabbing some medium too. You can mix any colors you like on your palette, or even in your little containers if you like. I have made texture on paintings that have stood up at least 1/4 of an inch. Like, it's very, very cool how you can build it up. It is delicate, but it's such an interesting look. And that's cooling on your brush and on the board as you're doing it. So it's picking up chunkier and chunkier bits as you go. Let's see if you can tell the difference now. So in the middle, there's these lines that are getting, you know, more and more deep, but also on this edge right here, this is all like getting like real kind of grungy texture looking. I love that, and I love it in that color. But now I'm going to do the chromium oxide green. My plastic that I melted. That's what I mean. You got to keep an eye on everything all the time. So I'm going to add some chromium oxide green on my palette over here. And I'll be the first to tell you that I am very cheap with my pigment because I find that they are so expensive. But, you know, that's up to everybody's interpretation too. So I'm going to put some of this, my soy wax, my brush cleaner. This brush is a little bit hard with wax. Yep, that loosens it up, cleans it out. I'm going to do a little bit of the green right smack in the middle of that stripe. You don't have to go back and forth like I do. This is just what I'm creating today. You can do all the brush strokes you can imagine you can do with encaustic. And then periodically in between where you have things where you want them to be, you heat it up, do the same thing, make sure it sets to the layer ahead of it. So I'm gonna do that real quick, and it's gonna be loud. I'm gonna try to speed it up so it's not loud for you guys. Okay, I'm gonna have to go back to my torch because I forgot how long that thing goes to cool off, so it takes too long. I'm going back to the torch. Anyway, so now we've got our green stripe in there, some really good texture going. It's been fused. So the burning in between the layers is called fusing. So it's making sure that those layers are blending together, sticking together. That can cause issues later if you don't do it. It'll just peel off of your substrate, so, or the layers before it. So I want to add more of that chromium green. I want to make it deep in the middle here. And you can take it down the sides too if you like. You can do this on flat board too if you like. I just like it on the cradle board the best. I'll let that cool on my brush a second. I'm barely touching the board right now because I'm trying to build up texture. Okay. Okay, got that nice and dark there. And now I'm going to do some of this green gold pale. And I think I'm going to use the brush that I used for the, what is that called? That ochre color, olive yellow. Because I want a little bit of that olive yellow to bleed into that pale color. Then I'm going to stick that down here. And what I want you to think about, if you're doing this, every time you make a move, remember everything is hot. Assume it's hot. Assume it's going to burn you, whatever you're touching, whatever you're about to do. It's like a gun, assume it's loaded. Assume what you're working on is going to be hot. Oh, I like this. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing up top here. Or am I? I don't think I am, actually. I'm going to keep that darker yellow towards the top. I'm going to add some of that right now. Like that. I'm trying to keep most of the strokes horizontal like this. It gives kind of a landscape feel. Okay. It's time to seal this, fuse it. If I can get my, there. So you'll see, stay still, the burning of this has caused some other texture to form. Here it's gone all the way down to the, almost all the way down to the substrate. Here it's formed some cells. So it's kind of unpredictable sometimes, but I really, really like it. The next thing I'm going to do is add some more of the clear medium. So that original wax that we put on, and I'm going to put it in those areas that formed that really cool texture. And sort of fill that in just a little. Okay, so you can see, I hope you can see where that wax that I just made today, that will give it that hazy kind of look that is so cool with encaustic, that kind of hazy, transparent. So yeah, just fooling around, getting it how you like it, infusing. I'm going to wait just a moment while this cools just a little. But you can see hopefully the texture that is forming on here. It cools pretty quickly, especially if you have like a cradle board with this space here. It gives it a little bit more, cools a little quicker, in my opinion. It seems that way. Okay, I'm going to fuse it. And then I'm going to do a bit of indigo. Yeah. Just a little. I'm going to put that back here where I had the chromium oxide green so that it can be a little bit harmonious there. I'm going to use the same brush as I used with the green. That's making a really cool color. And I'm just going to run that through a couple spaces here. Yeah. Yeah, I like that. Then I'm going to show you a cool trick with oil paint. So let me grab a color here. I'm going to use ultramarine blue. I'm going to let this cool a bit. Yeah, we're good. Okay, I'm going to take one of my tools here. What am I going to use? Like, okay, so I'm going to use this kind of clay tool. If you want to flatten out pieces, this piece is really good for that. But I'm going to use this one, just kind of the corner here, and I'm going to cut, literally just drag some lines through, put that in my slush bucket. And maybe just one more here. Okay. Okay, when you have lines and designs and all the things that you want in there, you take your oil paint. You can do this with the glove on if you want to, because it's a little messy. But I'm going to squeeze out some of this ultramarine blue. This is from Gamblin 1980. And I'm going to rub where I cut those lines out. A little more. You want to get it down in the lines. So basically, it's like a resist technique. This is quite a bright blue, but that's cool. Okay. And then what I'm going to do is use this tool where I can do flatter pieces, and gradually you can see. Let me get a towel here. Gently and gradually remove the upper layer to show that ultramarine blue just in those dugout lines. I don't want to remove too much, so I'm being very careful, but hopefully you can see what I mean here. This is a fun technique. And you can get more detailed if you like as well. This I'm just sort of burnishing off the extra a little bit here. If you're using paper towels for anything, be sure you're very careful around your flame and heat. Okay. So now I'm going to fuse this. Actually, I'm going to do a layer of medium and then I'm going to fuse it. Giving it like a very fog in the trees, misty kind of thing. I like that a lot. We're gonna fuse that. Where we're at right now as it's cooling. I think I want to add in, so if I'm seeing this like a landscape, I'm shaking you, sorry. I'm looking at this like far off trees, I'm looking like this as it's water. I want to do a little bit of a closer embankment, something dark to show that distance a little bit. So let me see what I've got to use here. Okay, I have this color called brown pink, which I really, really love. I think that might do the trick. So run that a little bit, just a little. I only need a little bit of it. I'm gonna do a little bit of cleaning on my brush, but not too much. I want some of the colors. I really like it if they run together. I mean, if they are going into each other a little bit. So that brown pink, I just want to, yeah, like as if this is some kind of embankment here. If you're gonna use your finger like this, be sure that it's cooled off enough that you don't burn yourself. I'm gonna grab a little bit of that yellowish color, like yellow olive color. I really like stippling with the tips of the brush because they're very, you know, what's the word? Stiff brushes. And that makes it a lot of fun to do, especially like foliage and things like that, with a stippling effect, which is what I'm working on right now. Grabbing some of that chromium green. So this stippling is also creating a texture that you can build up, which is so cool with encaustic. Yeah, I dig that. I'm gonna make these trees not maybe look quite so flat up here, but I still like that look, the hazy look there, so I don't want to do too much. So hopefully you can see the texture that I created in here. And then I'm gonna add another brush. Some more of this milky kind of yellow in here, in between that blue that I did. And then we're gonna fuse that in a second. Okay, I'm gonna fuse this. When you fuse, you want to make sure that there's literally melts everything so that it fuses together. Okay. I think I am very close to being done with this. I think one thing I would like to do is, oops, create maybe some grasses here at this section. And I'm literally just gonna pick it out with a like a pokey tool. You see what I'm doing there, right here? Sorry, I didn't mean to flip you off, but you get it. I was trying to point. So those grasses I'm adding in. If I was ambitious, I would make them, what is it? The plants that grow around the marshes that I can't even think of right now. Something to do with cats. I can't remember what they're called. Anyway, so there's a bit of like marshy grass growing over here. Cattails, that's what I was thinking of. But anyway, that is my landscape that I created with encaustic. Now these edges that you see all the drippies forming on and everything, you can scrape them down just like this. If you need to heat them up and scrape them down, you can do that. You can even literally put it on your palette like that and melt it down. Whatever works best for you. I can see this was a reused board because I have it signed Strobar 2021 and it had like a ticket on it. I've reused it from an old project, which I'd love to do. And there it is. You guys should help me name this piece because I really like it. Thanks for joining me. Bye.